Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Marco Dre Show, everybody. It is Friday, October 31st, 2025. Happy Halloween. As our week comes to a close, our month comes to a close, and an end, of course, as November is right around the corner. Thanks again for tuning in today's show to hear all the relevant, groundbreaking news here in America and around the world. The only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please don't forget to follow this show and share with whomever needs to hear the truth in our push to unwoke America. I thank all of you that have been doing that. I see the numbers going up, so thank you so much. It's been a very big month, too, for downloads for me, so I thank each and every one of you. Let's kick off the best hour radio has to offer. Uncensored and ready to go. We still have a lot to cover before the weekend hits, so let's get right down to business. I want to talk economics with you first. I'd like to do this little economic rundown of how the country's doing every week. Well, are things going as planned? Are things good? Is the economy vibrant? Is Make America Great Again in full effect? Well, I don't know about that. I got to question all that. And it comes from some of the numbers I've been seeing and hearing. So I want to go over some of these with you so you can see exactly what's happening. So we had real income growth for workers 25 to 54, dropped at the slowest pace now since 2010. With Gen Zers reporting paying an estimated $240 in overdraft fees over the past year, this would be last year, versus the baby boomers paying something like 27%. And again, this means what for them? No savings. They're probably spending more than what they earn, take in, of course. Not a good look. Not a good look for our younger Americans, of course. It has gotten so bad that 50% of all paychecks once received in America are now spent within 48 hours. So let's think rent, let's think about mortgage, let's think about insurance for either the home or the car or what have you, your utilities bills, you have your student loan debt, you have your credit card debt, you have your car loan or your car debt, whatever you want to call it. All these things are taking up huge swaths of what you earn. And if you're earning basically nothing, that goes away pretty quickly. So that's basically what that's telling me right there. Amazon, this was in the Wall Street Journal earlier this week, says Amazon was set to lay off 30,000 corporate workers. Yep, we have to pay. We got to pump up what we import from China now. That's really what it comes down to. All the cheap nonsense coming from China. So either the market on Amazon is slow or what people are buying from Amazon is very low because they don't need the staffing anymore for that. And by the way, they're up in everything across the board, too, from their GDP to their revenue to their assets. You name it, Amazon is up. So what is that telling me? What is that telling you? Well, basically, again, what it goes down to is they don't need the staff anymore. They don't need the people in the corporate offices. They need people in the warehouses packing all the garbage to be sent out to you via truck. The Wall Street Journal has another article. I saw this just a couple days ago, too. I didn't go over with you yet, but it says that the economy that's great for parents, lousy for their grown-up kids. Why is that, do we think? What could possibly be causing all of this? Well, again, it goes back to our Gen Zers, think of our millennials, of course. What's going on here? Well, here's an example. It says when Milan Janovic finished his PhD in chemical engineering in 1986, he got a job right away at Procter & Gamble. He climbed to the top of the corporate ladder, bought a spacious 4-bedroom home for him and his family, and saved a comfortable retirement. Good for him. Now, his daughter, on the other hand, conversely, her job search has been much tougher. Anais Janovic, 24, graduated cum laude from Ohio University. I want to mix up the two. Both are D1 schools, though. In December 2023, has lost count of the number of job applications she's now submitting for positions in marketing, social media, film, and television production. Not a bad field. Now, nearly 2 years later, she's still living at home with her parents in the colonial style. Don't say that to any liberals, it might upset them. In this colonial style home on the outskirts of Philadelphia, working part-time jobs as she continues her relentless search. So what's the reasoning for this? What's going on here? How come some 40 years ago you could get a job right away after college, build yourself in the field? It was, a company you could grow into. Obviously, you can save, you can buy a home, you can pay off your student loans right away. Now, what are you doing? Again, ask many older Americans how they are faring financially. They'll tell you they're really comfortable. Their houses are paid for, their 401ks have soared in value, and they're looking forward to a secure retirement. All there. Everything's there for the good old baby boomers. Yet many are brimming with pessimism about the economy because they see how their children are struggling. In order to find jobs, to find an affordable mortgage, if you can find a home at all, if BlackRock or State Street don't buy the home before you, or even just simple rent to pay for your health care or child care. What's going on? So what's happening? That's the big question. What's happening? Well, nearly 70% believe that the American dream is no longer runs true, or never did. The highest level in nearly 15 years of the survey. Nearly 80% said they were not confident that life for their children would be better. Yeah. Why is that? Let's break it down a little bit, shall we? What's going on in America today? What are we doing in America? Well, obviously, life in the mid-'80s. We were in the Reagan Revolution, of course. We saw a massive job growth in America during the Reagan administration. By the way, it was such a good economy. And again, Reagan never gets credit for this so much as he ought to. But Reagan grew the economy by so much. I think it was he had 25% gross national product. It was something outrageous. It was such a good economy. Even Bill Clinton, old Billy Clinton, that was him, His economy was greatly affected by what Reagan did. That's how good the economy was. They were still seeing the effects of what Reagan did in the 1990s. That's how good it was. And I can remember part of the economy in the part of the later 90s, of course. But it was a good economy, and from what I remember, you could do a lot with what you had. But what happened? Well, what did Clinton do? Let's not forget that. Well, he sold America out with bringing China into the World Trade Organization in 2001, and now they're booming. They got all the manufacturing. The American companies didn't want to pay the high corporate taxes, the taxation, deal with the regulations. So what do? They outsourced to China. And what happened with China? Well, of course, they got the technology, right? They got those jobs. They got people working. And instead of creating and building it here, obviously it was imported from abroad. Big difference. All those good paying jobs are now empty buildings, empty facades in America. You see them all over the place, all over the Rust Belt, all over America. And you can see it in places like Los Angeles. You see empty buildings, for lease signs on them. Nobody's buying them up because nobody could afford it. That's another big problem as well. And you have to understand inflation since then has greatly increased. The dollar has dropped, as we know. But now we have what? China is now investing in high tech. As we invest in what? What are we investing in? They're investing in rare earths, high tech. We're investing in war, and I guess Argentinian beef for Melee, giving him $40 billion it was, so he can win a re-election. Yeah, good. So America is, pushing for more war as time goes on, and other countries are building their nations up. That's what we're seeing. Same thing goes in Russia, too, by the way. So right now, this week, markets were down just a little bit, but according to the Trends Journal, expect a dot-com bust coming up in the near future. We have Meta and X down a little bit. We have Brent crude down this week from last week, again, because of the global economy being in recessions. They're down right now. Think supply is high, demand is low. That's why it's happening. Simple supply and demand. That's why Brent crude is low. It has nothing to do with what the Trump administration is doing. Even Bitcoin is low. But again, the economy is being pumped up because we want it to be pumped up, the cryptocurrencies. And of course, the big telltale is it all, gold is up, which means your dollar is down. Understand that. Just understand that when the gold prices go up, they skyrocket, and they are skyrocketing, highest they've ever been. That means your dollar is dropping in value. Your purchasing power is less in America. That means your kids can't do anything. That's what it comes down to. And again, we have financially secure parents are subsidizing their children now, their rents, helping them travel for job interviews, paying for job coaches. I don't even understand some of that. I mean, some parents are now going to job interviews with their kids. That's really odd. That's really awkward. Doesn't make much of any sense. But this group, 18 to 29, is not liking this economy. And you can understand why. That's why you're looking at people like Mom Dummy in New York City, who's offering everything under the sun for free. It rings home with these kids because, again, they can't make it. They can't make it. That's what it comes down to. You have the recent college graduates, especially taking a particular hit. You have typically facing higher unemployment rates from older workers, even though the gap is now widening. Again, while the overall unemployment rate rose to 4.3% in the month of August. Wonderful. It was 4.2% the month before. So it is much higher for recent college graduates, 6.5% over the last 12 months ending in August. This is the highest level in a decade, excluding the pandemic for unemployment spikes. So you have a group of young kids. Let's just put this out there in the open. You have a group of young kids. They get out of college. They probably owe anywhere from $100,000 to God knows what. Right? They got in. They earned it. Good. Whatever. Who cares? But now they're sitting there going, wait a minute. There's no job opportunity. There's no job waiting for me like it was for my father back in 1986 or what have you. Nothing's growing. But the rich keep getting richer. How is that happening? Well, because they're consolidating wealth. And again, you're seeing this merger and acquisitions, as Gerald Celente says in the Trends Journal, really starting to take off. It's starting to uptick now. And again, when you see the consolidation and power, you're going to have less job opportunities. That's just what it comes down to. I mean, we've seen it all over the place in any category, any job field. Right? They'll close some businesses, they'll, buy the business out, and then they'll keep it shut. They'll invest in their other companies that they're buying up. Now, some economists are blaming AI for this. AI really hasn't taken off yet, but it is taking off in some fields. Other companies say they're slowing for hiring, I should say, because they're uncertain about how these tariffs are going to do. That's another thing we have to talk about. The reality of the tariffs, what's going on with the Trump administration's that. Also, other regulatory changes will affect their cost if they think they can spend it. They're not going to hire people if they think that nobody's going to come and buy their product. Or if they've got to charge so much that people are not going to come buy their products. And again, recent college graduates are submitting hundreds of applications through LinkedIn, through ZipRecruiter, all these other portals, and barely even getting a response. So what do they have to look forward to? Other than looming bills, jobs they might get. I mean, maybe they get a job, working part-time someplace. But they're getting a big shaft from this. And again, that's what it all comes down to. I told you, unless we start increasing our investment in America, our investment, of course, in things like manufacturing, again, that's going to open up so many jobs. So when Trump says, hey, we've got, South Korea, we've got Japan, we got all these countries, 100 billion, 1 trillion, whatever the number is, doesn't even matter. We need to see some progress in this. We need to see some growth in this. And we need to hire Americans for it, not bring in more people from H-1B visas from India or any place else in the country. That's another thing you're seeing a problem with. The jobs are there, but they're paying people from other countries to come and work it. Again, it makes no sense to me, especially in the engineering field. That one makes absolutely no sense. We graduate 116,000 engineering graduates every single year in this country. You're telling me we need to bring in people from abroad to come work these jobs? America first means you take care of the American citizens. Okay? That's what that means. And you're not doing it if you keep importing people every single year that come in and take up all these swaths of jobs, the housing, the school system, you name it. which have been turned into crap, by the way. The school system in America is junk. That's another problem with a lot of what's happening. But they know that they can get people to work for cheaper if they bring them in from abroad. So we have so many problems with all this. Again, if I was Donald Trump, I would totally cut legal immigration to zero until we can absorb the legal immigrants we've taken in. And, of course, we take care of our own. We take care of our own children. There's no need to bring in 1 million immigrants in every year in this country. There's just not. They say, well, I'm for legal immigration. Why? We don't need them. We can't even take care of our own yet. What about the American citizen? Come on. And again, it just shows you in these two articles so that I've read for you. And, of course, what other people are saying and suggesting is happening. And what's going to happen to this Gen Z, I guess is what they call them now? What are they going to do? They're going to go for the bum dummies. They're going to go for the people that offer them something for nothing. Because they have nothing. If we don't invest in America, if we don't make things affordable, you're seeing housing prices, ridiculous. You can't see, again, people can't even, buy things on their own, to run their own type of businesses, become entrepreneurial. This is a major problem. We've really got to revamp education in this country so people can get out and start doing their own things. But we got to make every single thing affordable. And lately, I hate to tell you, since at least 2000, everything is just becoming more and more unaffordable. The American dream is dying off, and you can see why. So the Trump administration has a hell of a fight for them to get into, and hopefully they figure this out. Hopefully they figure out this inflation. Hopefully they figure out this looming national debt that's $38 trillion. Because it's not working for the average American. It's working for the wealthiest. They like it. They buy up this, they buy up that, they buy up single-family homes. They're fine. They're doing great. It's us, the dunces, the average American that's getting the shaft here. By the way, let's talk more in depth about the Trump-Xi meeting that took place yesterday in South Korea. Nothing's signed yet, by the way. I mean, it doesn't mean nothing's going to happen, of course. But did the tariffs give us any type of leverage? That's what I'm going to ask you. And now, what we know is that, of course, President Trump agreed to reduce the tariffs on Chinese goods by 10%, dropping it from 57% to 47%. Maybe this will help, ease up tensions in America. Who knows? But again, once you have Trump coming in and saying, you know what, we're going to put in a 100% tariff on imports from China. And let's say your business, your company, they get a lot of raw materials or goods from China. They're saying, what the hell am I going to do? Am I even going to stay in business? Are people going to buy my stuff? So I'm not going to invest in my company. I'm not going to reinvest in new workers. I'm not going to do that. So this back and forth with tariff here, 50% on India, 100% on China, sanctions on Russia and Russian oil. All this nonsense has got to stop, folks. It really has to stop. And again, this came after China that deliberately brings in fentanyl to the United States to be laced in God knows what. But the Mexican drug cartel said it would work with the United States to keep in mind fentanyl that has claimed, 400,000 American lives that we know of? It's anywhere from 50 to 100% more toxic and lethal than heroin. No word on how China is going to stop this drug crisis. Why not say, hey, if we stop seeing this, we'll continue to trade with you. If not, we're going to start putting quotas on what you bring into this country. And I'm going to start bringing these jobs back into America. I'm going to, make these companies that are American companies, just in your country, come back to America. And he could do that. Donald Trump could do that. And I would not be opposed to that. Later, President Trump said that the additional 100% tariff on Chinese goods would not be implemented. Thank God for that. So really, China kind of got off easy on these tariffs. I'd have to say the tariffs really didn't bring in much leverage here. It seems that China got what they wanted from this. On the rare earth mineral side of this, which, again, used in EVs, planes, weapons, renewable energy, semiconductors, missiles, anything under the sun, especially with a new focal point of AI. To me, this was the biggest issue for the meeting, of course. President Trump said that Beijing would delay its recently announced export restrictions on rare earths for 1 year, and then said it sounds like, to me, it says, every year it'll be renegotiated with America. And let's not forget, China produces 95% of the world's rare earth magnets. Reuters tells us, however, now that India is saying that companies are having license to import all these rare earths and these magnets coming in from China. Again, this is after a 6-month halt. Conditions cannot be re-exported to places like the United States or for military purposes. So what's all this saying to us? This just tells me that China is easing its export control as of right now, but really that it's going to lead the world in this technology that produces these 17 or so rare earth minerals into magnets. So whoever purchases these rare earths are complying with Chinese rules. And I told you before that China will lead this market, India will become second, and maybe the United States comes in third place, depending on how quickly we get into this. I don't know. But China's going to be leading this market. I told you before, they're reinvesting in high-tech, technology, all this stuff. They're going to be starting to lead this, folks. And if we don't get our act together, we're not going to be leading anything. We're just going to be simply buying it. And they will simply control that. I told you before, China wants to lead this century. They want this to be the century of China, okay? They've said this. Again, what do I care? Anyone can have aspirations to lead the world. What do I care? But they want to knock America off from being the world superpower. That's what they want. And again, our economy is bigger than theirs right now, but theirs is second to ours. They want to be first. I mean, you can look at how much they've, again, reinvested in China alone. It's greatly grown. Greatly grown. By the way, from 1970 to 2000, I was listening to Gerald Celente talk about this. Hey, no GDP growth in their country. It was like a flat line for 3 decades. Then Billy Clinton brings them into the World Trade Organization. Then all of a sudden it booms, it grows. And now they're, second? Second biggest economy in the world. There you go. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Maybe less time with the interns in the office and more on fixing Americans' problems. Yeah. No deal on TikTok came from this meeting, but Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, says that the takeover of American ownership to this, I almost said censorship, which is the other part of this. Yep, the takeover of America ownership to a separate TikTok from ByteDance, the company that owns it, is moving forward. Again, never forget how Netanyahu told his foot soldiers in the meetings, of course, that TikTok is key. And, of course, he's going to put Larry Ellison, who's a proud Zionist, in that position to run it. And, again, they'll police and, detect, collect all your data, control the content that you see, control the algorithms. Because, again, the 18 to 29-year-olds in America, those Gen Zers I was talking about 21% of them only support Israel. That's a big problem. And Netanyahu's looking for the future of this. Because, again, Israel can't survive without American foreign policy being positive. That means us supporting their entire military, which we do, give them foreign aid, which we always do, economic aid, which we always do. They can't survive without us. And, again, that's a big, big problem for them. So understand that's coming very soon. We have China now. China will now buy U.S. chips, though, through NVIDIA, right? And other companies, likely be used by the Chinese military and other AI capabilities. So again, we're helping them in that front as well. It says China will now buy our soybeans. Whoop-de-doo. Some 12 million metric tons of soybeans, the phytoestrogen itself per year. Well, at least not in the United States anymore. That's a good thing. Who are the winners of this meeting, guys? What do you think? Does it sound like America, who's selling them soybeans and they're buying our computer chips? Who sounds like the winner of this meeting? They get them all for free trade. That's fine. Seems like we're going to be getting some AI, rare earths. But we're talking about them buying soybeans and computer chips from us to boost up their economy. Right? Again, soybeans are cheap. Probably use it to give to their livestock for feed, which is just simply fodder. It's just not something animals should be eating in general. But what are we getting from this? Seems like China's getting the AI. They're getting the license on the AI. They're going to dictate what we do. They're getting lower tariffs. And we're selling soybeans to them. And chips. When are we going to start reinvesting in America, folks? That's my question to you. And again, I don't say this to be a downer on Donald Trump. I'm just saying the reality of the situation. What do we get from this meeting? And again, I'm glad for the soybean farmers in America. Don't get me wrong. But it seems like China made out a little bit better than the United States. Just a hunch for what I'm thinking right now. Oh, by the way, also in the global front, we have Trump saying now that there's no decision has been made on looming Venezuelan land strikes. What did I just tell you? We're investing in war, not America. Big problem. Absolutely a big problem here. President Trump told reporters on Friday that he's not made a decision on whether the United States will strike military targets in Venezuela, according to Bloomberg. Contradicting a report from the Miami Herald that said that the Trump administration could conduct strikes as soon as Friday. Why are we doing this? Does anybody know? Well, I know why. Because we want their petroleum reserves. That's why. Their petroleum, their gas, their gold mines. Yep. We want to come in there and start taking over all of it. Especially with China, again, being in a formidable foe here and leading the economy. This is what's happening. This is what's happening in America, folks. So plan for a war with Venezuela. There'll be some type of false flag, or the CIA may knock off Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and his regime. They'll import the puppet who won the World Piece of Crap Prize. Yeah, that's what they'll do. That's it. That's all. What's her name? Machado? Who cares? All she is a puppet. That's all she is. You can go back and listen to my show that I did earlier. I think it was last week on who she is. This so-called Nobel Peace Prize winner. Yeah. No peace there. She actively wants her government overthrown so she can be the puppet that sells off anything that the United States wants or the highest bidder wants that will help put her in office. She'll give right to them for power. That's what she wants. And again, she's been leading revolts in her country. Yep. So expect that to happen probably soon. It seems Trump's comments contradicted the Miami Herald's report, though, on whether or not he's going to carry out these strikes. The report came after the Wall Street Journal reported Thursday evening that the White House was considering airstrikes on targets within Venezuela, though it had not yet decided at a time to carry it out. Why are we even... First of all, do we declare war on Venezuela? What did Venezuela do to the United States? Now, I know what they're going to say, of course. They're going to say things like, well, Venezuela, drug trafficking, this and that. First of all, by the way, we're still striking their boats coming from Venezuela. No due process. No idea if they're actually carrying any type of drug, narcotics, or what have you into the United States. But we're bombing them from the Caribbean. And we're saying, look, we got another drug boat. Look at this. This is terrorism. We got to stop them. We might have to invade. Really? Then why don't we invade Mexico? God knows how many drugs have been coming in through Mexico, which is a much bigger import of drugs in the United States than Venezuela. You can also look at countries like Colombia, which far more cocaine would come out of Colombia than it would Venezuela. You can look at Ecuador, too. But again, they're using this as a narrative. They're saying Venezuela is doing this, therefore we've got to take them out anytime we can. That's what's happening right now. Goes on to say it's unclear precisely where any strikes could take place, though the Journal reported targets would most likely be places like ports, airports, and naval facilities that are controlled by Venezuela's military and alleged used to traffic drugs. Wow. Alleged. That's the word there. Never forget that. Alleged. So they're not convicted of anything. We have no idea who we're killing. They just knocked off a boat off the coast of Mexico in the Eastern Pacific. Remember that? Who came out and got the sole survivor? Well, Mexico did. Shouldn't we have intervened and arrested this person who's trying to bring in poisonous drugs in the United States? Wouldn't that be the proper response to that? Hold them accountable? Charge them? But notice we didn't do that. Because this whole thing, folks, I'm sorry to tell you, is a complete sham. It's all about resources. It's all about petroleum, gas, and, of course, gold. Why? Because we need to do something there. Yep. So nothing to see there, folks. Nothing to see there. Expect that to ramp up very, very quickly. And it seems like every time we talk about this, there's either more boats that have been destroyed, again, violating international law. Imagine that, though. Imagine a boat leaving Miami and, Venezuela blows it up, saying, well, that boat was leaving Miami. There's a lot of cocaine in Miami. We think there was a drug trafficking boat coming to Venezuela, so we blew it up. How the hell would we respond to that? Of course we would respond, with amazement that this could possibly happen. It's amazing to me. It's absolutely amazing to me. And again, Look at this. It says the United States is one of a number of countries that does not recognize Maduro as Venezuela's proper leader after his re-election in 2024 was widely criticized as being improperly determined. And Secretary of State Little Marco Rubio has long opposed Maduro's leadership, calling him a dictator. Okay, there we go again. So he's a dictator. We got to take him out. First of all, what the hell's that got to do with us? What do I give a damn what happens in Venezuela? I really don't care what happens in Venezuela, to be honest with you. I really don't. If they want Maduro, let them have Maduro. If they want Hugo Chavez's ghost, let them have that. If they want this Machado woman, let them have that. I don't care. It's not our business. Just like it wouldn't be any other country's business to be involved in our elections. Right? Well, that's the way I see it. Yet somehow we've got to go and take him out because we decided that he's a dictator? That we've decided that he's not legitimate? What if someone said that about Joe Biden, by the way? Do they have any right to come and perform a coup in the United States and install another president? Let's use our heads here. Doesn't make any sense. But it does make sense if you, again, want to install your puppet and take the country's natural resources. It does make sense if you're thinking about it in that terms, folks. Which brings me to my next point. The days of our democracy are over in this country. Paul Craig Roberts has a brilliant article. And, I got to read it to you, of course. Because it puts things into proper perspective for how this country has been operating for the better part of, 65 years now, I'd say, at least. So he says, for decades I've been watching American democracy unravel as it becomes increasingly dysfunctional. United States democracy murdered President JFK and followed up his murdering his brother, RFK. Then President Nixon was murdered politically by democracy with the CIA and Washington Post orchestration of Watergate. Yep, that's absolutely true, by the way. Democracy attempted to frame, indict, and of course prosecute President Trump for Russiagate, Documentsgate, Insurrectiongate, lying on mortgage rates, loan applications, and of course 2 phony impeachments on false charges against President Trump. Right, remember that? Just dealing with that nonstop. And by the way, who's gone to jail for that so far? Has anyone gone to jail for that? No, nobody. Okay, we're charging Dim Comey, of course. Where's that going? Absolutely nowhere. By the way, anyone gone to jail for COVID yet? Anyone in the government? Nobody? No, I didn't think so. Anyone from Epstein? Nope, still nobody. Nobody. How about the false pretenses for the war in Iraq? Anybody? Nope, nobody yet. It is just a simple sham, folks. It's absolutely ridiculous. But again, we have democracy and accountable government lying to us about the war in Vietnam, the USS Liberty, which was attacked by Israel, by the way, about 9/11, Afghanistan, Saddam Hussein of Iraq, which was the false pretext to go into Iraq, Gaddafi of Libya, Bashar al-Assad of Syria, of course, Sudan, Somalia, Ukraine, South Ossetia, Iran, Russia, China, and now Venezuela. See how all this works out? What did I tell you we've been doing since 2001? China became a huge manufacturer, booming their economy. What do? We started going into the war business, and we've been in war for quite some time. And what have we found about each and every one of those wars? They're all a bunch of shams. Realistically, they're all a bunch of shams. What the hell did Saddam Hussein have to do with 9/11? Nothing. What did the government of Afghanistan have to do with it? Nothing. But what was in Afghanistan? Lots of poppy fields. Oh, yeah, lots of poppy fields there. What was in Iraq? Lots of oil. Starting to make sense? And of course, now we can go on to Greater Israel. We can look at some of these other governments too and why they had to fall. But it all makes sense when you start putting the pieces together. So we have this accumulated failures of what we call democracy. I call it a republic, personally. We have democratically run elections, of course, or so we think, but they're being eroded at its foundation, thereby permitting the executive branch to encroach more on the separation of powers and, of course, violate the United States Constitution. And again, the U.S. has been in so many wars since the last time Congress even declared war in December of 1941, and we could talk about that pretext as well. But the president has simply taken war out of the Congress's hands. That's what it's come down to. Any single war we've been involved in, any single foreign conflict we've been involved in since December of 1941 is bogus. In the 21st century, presidents have gone much further by stealing power from the United States Constitution and the court system as well. You got to look at George W. Bush, ignoring habeas corpus, going after citizens, American citizens, on the suspicion alone, without any type of due process. President Obama did the same thing, to actually even murder U.S. citizens on suspicion alone without due process. I talked about that the other day with you. And what's done about it? Nothing. Nothing was done about these unconstitutional acts, again ignored by our judiciary system. There is no checks and balances. And again, President Trump, in his own initiative, has committed acts of war against Russia, bombing Iran without any type of formal declaration. And look at what's happening with this war now we're talking about in Venezuela, in our purview. Now, we're actually talking about bombing Venezuela under zero pretext. What does Venezuela do to the United States national security? Absolutely nothing. There's nothing they have done to the United States or even could threaten the United States. It's ridiculousness in and of itself. I mean, look at this. We have this dysfunction of American democracy reaching its point at which the government has been shut down for a month while Congress gets paid. And again, tomorrow you're going to have 42 million Americans. Well, so we think. I think the bulk of those are probably illegal aliens, by the way. Just thought I'd share that with you. Unable or unwilling to support themselves financially, thereby compromising this burden placed on, 170 million Americans in the U.S. labor force. Now we're going to run out of the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or SNAP as many of you call it. But American democracy has become so dysfunctional that nothing is being done to avoid likely massive violence resulting from, again, leaving 42 million Americans without any type of food assistance. Yeah, how's that going to go tomorrow? How's that going to go for a mother of, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids that she can't feed her children? What's going to happen, do you think? You think she's going to sit by idly? Well, I think you should focus otherwise, folks. And by the way, if you can, this is just me saying this, if you can, if you'd like to, think about donating to a food pantry. I'm saying this to be honest with you. Actually think about doing that because a lot of these food banks are, again, running short on food supply. And you're going to have a lot of people showing up to these places. I recommend you do it probably before tomorrow if you can, if you're hearing this. But that's going to be something that's going to be pretty outrageous pretty soon, folks, in this country. It's going to be a lot of strife in the streets. So I'm just going to say that to you. When you have mothers or fathers of hungry children that they can't feed. And again, this is probably the Democrats' entire purpose with this shutdown. Not just to prevent President Trump from implementing his agenda, of course. But they like to see this dysfunction in the streets. They like this. They like this. And what President Trump could do, again, if, for example, if he can lead a country to war without obtaining congressional approval, I guess he could really put forth food stamps without congressional approval, too. I don't see how that would be too out of the ordinary here. But imagine that. What if President Trump did that tomorrow? He said, you know what? I'm going to fund this. And my God, he would swing a lot of people from the Democratic Party to President Trump and the Republicans. Wouldn't that be genius? That would actually be brilliant of President Trump if he did that tomorrow. 42 million Americans, that'd be 1/4 of the size of the U.S. labor force, abandoning the Democratic Party, would be rescued from hunger by President Trump's administration. How hilarious would that be? I mean, Schmuck Boomer would be, not on his own here. Would fall right in his face. He goes over a couple more examples here, of course. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I think you kind of get the picture here. You get the picture that we are in crisis right now. We're not following the Constitution to a T as we ought to. The government is not working for us. It's simply working for the military security industrial complex. That's what's happening here. But this consolidation of power, I mean, we can look back at history. We can see that the same thing happened in ancient Rome. And when the faction of the Senate prevented effective rule, Rome first tried to what? Appointing dictators for term limits. That didn't work. So then what did Julius Caesar do? He saw the need for a functional government as his opportunity. So what did he do? Well, he centralized power in himself. by absorbing the checks and balances, such as counsel onto himself, of course, while weakening the Senate by increasing the size to 900 members. Yeah, how'd that go? Do they work in solidarity there? How can they get anything accomplished there with 900 people in one chamber? And in this way, he created the autocracy, which his son adopted. Octavius became Augustus, the first Roman Empire. There we go. And we all know the fate of Rome as itself. They stopped creating young Romans. They stopped producing young Romans, I should say, or raising them. They started letting everybody under the sun come into the Roman Empire. And what happened? Well, we know what happened. The fall of the Roman Empire. And we're seeing the same thing with the fall of the American Empire right now. We're not raising young Americans. We're not teaching them to understand or respect the rule of law. We're not teaching them to be entrepreneurs. We're not teaching them that America should be first, or that we should respect our borders. Quite the opposite. You have people so stupid in the streets right now, actively protesting on behalf of people that have absolutely no right to be in this country, which would be illegal aliens. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And over time, you would think, hey, you know what? This is hopefully going to get better. We put Trump in office, of course. Many of us voted for President Trump. But what really happened as a result of this? Are things getting better? Right now, it seems like the status quo is there. One could argue that the Biden administration, of course, over time, 4 years of doing nothing, of stagnation. I'd call it dragflation. We had zero economic output. And, what was happening in the country? They lied to us. They said, we created 13 million jobs. Yeah, right. Do you know if they actually created 13 million jobs? You know how big the economy would boom if that was the actual case? No, we all know it's a bunch of nonsense. But this is what happens. This is what happens when you do nothing. When you worry about war, as Joe Biden did, do nothing, and you don't invest in America. This is exactly what you see. You see a dying nation, a dying economy, despite it being the greatest economy in the world, folks. That's what you're seeing right now, playing out right in front of your eyes. Equally troubling, I want to go over this point before we move on to the next point here. I guess I'll go over this now. Forgive me if there's some foul language in this video. This was actually taken a couple days ago in Texas. I'm told it's in Bell County, Texas. And you had state police showing up to a gentleman's home in America, in Texas, because of comments he made online. Where have we seen this before? The UK? I told you this before. I said this is coming to America if we don't stand up to this. This actually happened in America just a few days ago. Take a listen.
Try that again.
We're here because of the comments you made online about the Jewish community.
So what?
No, I'm saying, are you
I have a freedom of speech, dude.
Yeah, no, we get that.
We get that.
We gotta make sure that you're not.
Do you have a warrant?
No, that's why we're
Okay,
here.
you see that sign? Yeah. See that says no soliciting? What you're doing is basically soliciting. You understand that, right? Yeah. It means you're not welcomed here.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
3 state police officials showing up to his house saying, hey, you made some comments about the Jewish community, referring, of course, probably to Israel, I'm assuming. And the officers claimed that they were there to ensure he didn't intend to harm people. Now, this is a disabled U.S. Navy veteran. They're showing up to his house without any type of warrant. And he promptly asked them to leave. Now, where would they get this information from? How would they know this? Did someone report it? Or is it this Operation Gideon that I told you about, that no one was talking about? This happened after that one lunatic shut up that one, I think it was the Annunciation School. I think it was in Michigan, if I'm not mistaken. And on Fox News that evening, this Aaron Cohen guy, who was a former intelligence officer, I believe in the IDF, came out and said, you know what, I've got this brilliant program. Oh, it's going to be connected to the local police. It'll just keep scraping the internet for any type of information that looks like violence. It'll go right to your police department and they'll be able to assess it. I think you're seeing it play out right now. Did anyone ask for this, by the way? Did anybody ask for this? This violation, again, of You speaking your mind is now going to be, oh, well, this person's inciting violence. And now you have the police knocking on your door now. Hey, we just want to make sure everything's okay, buddy. Is it any different than what's happening in the UK right now? Hey, we got to take the phone. Sorry. You can't make that post on Facebook. Oh, you can't view that post on Facebook, by the way. We got to take the phone. Yep, we got to look at it for more information. If this continues, we got to take you in. Sorry. Yep, coming to America. Coming to a town near you. In America, today in 2025, we have police showing up to people's houses over comments made on social media. I personally, I think he should be suing this police department. That's the way I view this. What is going on here? Absolute absurdity that is happening in America. We know the difference in inciting violence, of course, and making a critical statement of a foreign government. Everyone has a right to do that. But my God, showing up to someone's house saying, "Oh, we just want to make sure," we want to make sure. I'm sure he's going to tell you he's going to go and incite violence, of course. Ridiculousness. Absolute ridiculousness. This is happening. It's only going to get worse, too, folks. Once you see Larry Ellison take over TikTok, once you see this program really start to get in full force, you can start seeing these knocks on the doors happen much, much more. Unless, of course, we stand up and say, no, we don't want this. We don't want an AI police system, Operation Gideon, watching and recording every little word somebody says. And my thoughts are he's probably getting a little bit too close to the truth on something. Just my thought. What's going on in the House right now, too, with this shutdown now? We're 31 days into it. This is in the Hill. It says Speaker Johnson warns of consequences of nuking the filibuster, which President Trump went to Truth Social yesterday evening, talking about the nuclear option. Speaker Mike Johnson said at a press conference on Friday, talking about the downsides of using the nuclear option to bypass the Senate's 60-vote threshold to reopen the government, but didn't directly disagree with the president's call for the upper chamber to get rid of the filibuster. Well, first of all, this is going to be a big problem for many different reasons. Number one, the filibuster traditionally has been viewed as an important safeguard in the U.S. Senate. Get if the shoe's on the other foot. I don't think the other team would probably like it. Do you think we would like it if that was the case? Now, he goes on to say that Democrats, if they were in the majority with no filibuster, they'd probably make the, District of Columbia and Puerto Rico states, banning firearms and what have you. Those sort of things that would be very, very harmful to the country. Which, of course, they have no way to do those things, but they would definitely attempt it. Make no mistake about it. Johnson then said Trump's post was another expression of the frustration, of the anger that has been felt by the president. Many Republicans are also coming through and also saying no on eliminating the Senate filibuster. This is a safeguard that we really need and we should have. And again, why would we do this? We're already 31 days into it. Why do it now? You know, again, things are looking bad. You're seeing delays in airports. You're seeing people without food assistance. All these things. Government officials not getting paid. Of course, Congress is getting paid, so what the hell do they care? But this is your government. This is whom you elected, the Democrats, and of course they're not working with the current existing government. That's what it comes down to. You've got Senate GOP leaders have ruled out potential changes to the filibuster to reopen the government. Majority Speaker Thune told reporters last week that getting rid of the filibuster in order to reopen the government was a bad idea. So it's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. You've got Senate Republicans controlling 53 seats. Again, why would we do this? To go to a simple majority. And it's important to understand elections matter. And realistically, we should probably have 57 seats, but of course that got changed in the previous election. I've talked about this in depth as well. You can go look at that if you'd like. But again, I don't like this idea of getting rid of the filibuster. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's just words and nothing happening there. PJ Media's got another article here on Jasmine Crockett making a fool of herself. I call her Jasmine P. Brain Crockett because that's what she is. She's so stupid, she actually proved Americans that are right on this shutdown and the Democrats are the ones to blame on this. Of course, she didn't realize that probably till after this X, what would you call it, live stream? I don't even know. But Crockett basically acknowledged that the government shutdown while Biden was in office. Wait a minute, let me see this. I don't know if there was no government shutdown when Biden was in office. Yeah, I don't know why they're saying that. But she chalks it up to, she said there was no government. Okay, I see what they're saying. Okay, all right. She chalked up that this was Biden's leadership, of course. But what really happened, the entire Biden regime, was that Republicans provided the necessary votes to keep the government funded under Biden. In fact, there were 13 clean, continuing resolutions passed under Biden thanks to Republicans. They didn't stonewall the government for their policies. But she doesn't seem to figure this out. Again, it shows in her a lack of expertise, I guess I'll say, or lack of wisdom, or lack of brain capacity. I'm not sure. Maybe all of them. Who knows? But anyways, here she is making a fool of herself, thinking she's brilliant on X. You take a listen.
Right now, they want to say, it's the Democrats that are holding us down when, hell, we ain't been able to do much of anything, right? Because we don't have the numbers. But now they're like, it's the Democrats' fault. It is not. It is not. I mean, you understand what the numbers are. You were supposed to be able to count. And part of counting is also making sure that you understand when you got to negotiate. You don't have 60 in the Senate. That means you have to talk to the other side. Guess what? Joe Biden didn't have 60 in the Senate either. But guess what? He never had a government shutdown. So for all the talk about Joe Biden being senile, Joe Biden being incompetent, and all the other nonsense, I just want to remind y'all that in the last 4 years, you did not endure a shutdown. In fact, this is the shutdown president. That's the only thing that he is very accomplished at. And listen, nobody can beat him at it, okay? When you run the tape on him, this is what he does. And as far as I'm concerned, and these are words that he has shared with us before, leadership comes from the top.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. That was brilliant. Absolutely. Hey, hang on. So brilliant. Now, her little math lecture wasn't really the flex that I think she thought it was. Simply by acknowledging that Republicans didn't filibuster a clean CR under Biden means they didn't hold the government hostage for their own policies. And again, she inadvertently admits that it's the Democrats who've broken with the proper precedent and throw the system into complete chaos. Republicans have a majority. They don't have a supermajority, genius. If we did, we wouldn't have this problem. So it's the Democrats who are holding the government closed because they want to get, their free health care for illegal aliens under Medicaid. They want their LGBTQ, XYZ, WTUV programs to God knows what country, spending millions of dollars on that. They want to get funding back into, PBS, NPR, these things, all ridiculous. All ridiculous. So while claiming to be intelligent, she actually does the exact opposite of what she probably wanted to do. And again, she exposed the truth about who actually governs and, again, who is merely performing here. Really funny stuff here. You got to laugh at her sometimes. Yep, and trying to paint Trump's as the shutdown president. By the way, Reagan, I think the government got shut down 8 times total when he was president. Trump didn't shut the government down, genius. It was Schmucky Boomer. Old Schmuck Boomer shut the government down. And again, he's holding the government hostage so he can try to put in all these things for Democrats. Say, look at me. I'm a lefty. I'm left of AOC. I'm worried she's going to kick my ass in the next Senate campaign. That's what he's coming out. That's why he's got to go to the left on this. He's going to take on Donald Trump. First of all, Trump has nothing to do with this yet. Trump is the one that's going to sign whatever this CR is into law and start funding the government again. But Schumer's holding everyone hostage. Never forget who owns this. It is the Democrats. And this idea of let's come and talk about this, there is no talk. We're not funding your leftist programs anymore. We're not funding LGBTQ programs that we don't agree with. And we're not going to give illegal aliens free health care. Of which, of course, many of them already do get free health care when they go to the ER, which are rising up our premiums, by the way. But this is who they are. This is who they are. This is the Democrats are. They're idiots in a regard of Jasmine P. Brain Crockett, among other people. Yep. This is who they are. Not going over too well for them. By the way, maybe she should look at this article in Breitbart so she see exactly who Chucky Boomer is trying to fund illegal health care to now. says here, ICE arrests illegal aliens convicted of child sex crimes, fentanyl trafficking. Wonderful, wonderful. It's so nice that we have Americans that go to the streets for this, but not, for other things like bringing back manufacturing, for peace, for a future in this country. No. They go and stand up for, no kings, no kings. Oh, okay. No kings. They wouldn't know a king if they ran into one, first of all. But here we go. We have ICE now continuing to arrest illegal aliens, many of whom are convicted of the most heinous crimes, considering things such as child sex abuse, fentanyl trafficking. Look at this. Look at this. This is who Joe Biden led in this country. Among these illegal aliens arrested are Elroy Smith of Jamaica, convicted of unlawful contact with a minor, including sexual offenses and indecent assault with a person less than 13 years in Philadelphia. Bravo, Elroy, bravo. A real person of character adding to our communities, right? Similarly, ICE agents arrested Joel Ocampo Martinez. I think it's Ocampo, excuse me. I don't want to mispronounce his name here. Of Mexico, who's been convicted of attempted forcible sexual abuse in Utah, as well as Luis Mario Martinez Gonzalez of Mexico, who's been convicted of assault on a public servant in El Paso, Texas. And last but not least, the Emmy Award winner of them all, Osiris Alexander Rodriguez Guzman of the Dominican Republic, who was also arrested by ICE agents after being convicted in the Essex Superior Court of Massachusetts for trafficking 200 grams or more of fentanyl into the country. I mean, people have to look at the United States and laugh that there's actual morons that would go to the streets waving flags of foreign nations, championing that illegal aliens should stay in the country. The United States is a country of no borders, and actually want these people to stay in the United States, regardless if they're criminals or not, on other factions, despite already coming in the country illegally, which is a crime in and of itself. Not that, Dumb Lemonhead or the other schmucks on MS Nobody Cares or CNN think. All right, I had so many more good articles, too. I think I'm going to run out of time today, but I'm going to try to get through them as quickly as I can. Let's go over Kamala Harris. This is the New York Post. It says, Kamala Harris shocks Jon Stewart by insisting Biden was fully competent to serve another term. Who is she trying to kid here? Who is this idiot? Who is this empty skirt trying to cater to here now? So during an episode of the Comedians podcast, The Weekly Show, Harris revealed that she regrets not making more of a distinction between herself and Biden during her failed White House run last year. Remember that? She was on The View of Ignoramus Women, and she came out, how would you say you're different than Joe Biden? And she went, I don't think there's really anything I could point to. I don't really know. No one's ever asked me this before. I never had to answer any questions when I was in California, when I ran for office, when they handed it to me on a silver plate. This woman's never had to answer for anything. And it just shows how stupid she is. She can't even differentiate herself between herself and a walking corpse. That'd be Biden, by the way. So Stewart jumped in to clarify that he wasn't asking about the competent conversation, but the differences in policies Biden wanted to implement versus Harris's own priorities. And of course, she has no answer. She has no answer. It only gets worse as time goes on, as she continues to talk. And by the way, she is going to be running in 2028 again to, make her mark in history, I suppose. But at this time, they can't simply just anoint her to the Democrat candidacy for president. She actually had to compete again. But what is she going to do? Where is this airhead going to go? Where is Heels Harris going to go here? Stewart asked her, what did he say? Do you really believe that he was competent? And she says, I do. And he even says, this is a left winger saying that actually, this surprises me actually. I mean, she falls flat on her face every single time. She did this podcast with the Diary of a CEO, which is actually a really, really good podcast, by the way. I don't know why he had her on, of all people. But this is what she said regarding the election. Listen to this. This might be fraudulent, too, by the way. Who knows?
I was in a state of shock.
Really? Mm. Did you think the day before that you were going to win the election?
I did.
Yeah. And so when did the proverbial penny drop?
When I got a call from my campaign manager that it looks like we need 200,000 more votes that we can't find.
Uh-oh, wait a minute. Did she just say that she needed 200,000 more votes that we can't find? Is she looking for votes? Didn't Donald Trump get in trouble for asking about, saying there's got to be 11,000 more votes somewhere in the state of Georgia? Oh, that, what's her name? What's her name? Willis, yeah. The Fonz Willis. Fonnie Willis. Yeah, they put a whole case on it. Brought to you by the White House. Oh. Maybe we need to look into this, folks. Who knows? I got a call from my campaign manager that we needed 200,000 more votes that we can't find. So they're looking for votes in various states. And I'm sure she's referring to these swing states. Isn't that something, folks? Saying the quiet part out loud. Not a shocker coming from Kamala Harris. All right, let's go over these last two articles I have, and we'll call it a day. We'll get into our weekend. It says here in the Daily Star that Prince Andrew has now been stripped of all titles and evicted from the Royal Lodge as King gives him a new name. This is not good. This is not good at all for the royal family, folks. I got to tell you. In a statement, the palace said that Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. His lease on Royal Lodge has to date provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to an alternate private accommodation. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. Whew. Not looking good for Prince Andrew, folks. And this is all coming as a result of the Epstein case. He was one of the names in all this. But the public is not looking too fondly of him. Those viewing Andrew very negatively has surged from 69% in August to 81% based on the responses from 2,000 adults surveyed earlier this week. Not looking good for him. Not looking good. Now, he's tried to put an end to years of this scandal, primarily amid the claims that he sexually assaulted Virginia Giuffre, who killed herself, allegedly, earlier this year by, again, relinquishing his dukedom and other titles before Miss Giuffre's posthumous memoirs hit the shelves earlier this month. This whole case is blowing out of proportion, too, by the way. They're saying there was no sex trafficking to other people, yet there's people saying these people whom Epstein was associated with, like Prince Andrew, among other people, were actually assaulting minor women in various locations. So where is the DOJ on this? This is the big question. Where's the DOJ on this? Now, obviously, this is very embarrassing to the royal family. What the hell do I care? But this is not good. When you have people actually coming forward and saying, look, this happened, and nobody's looking into this. There are claims that Mr. Windsor, that's what they're calling him now, Mr. Windsor. Look at him. Passed sex trafficking victim Virginia Giuffre's date of birth and social security number to his taxpayer-funded bodyguard in 2011 in order to obtain information about her are being looked into by the Metropolitan Police. Where's our DOJ? That's what I got to know. Where's our DOJ on this? Why are they hushing up this Epstein case? Who's on it that they don't want their name released to the public? That's what I want to know. But there's obviously caution in the wind here. Obviously. This is not looking good. So Mr. Smith indicated that the survivors of the Epstein scandal will be among the people that the legal team will seek to gather evidence from. So it looks like you have the Metropolitan Police now looking into this case, and our DOJ is doing what? Seems absolutely nothing here. And by the way, also, it says here in the New York Post, another article, says Prince Andrew had 40 prostitutes brought into a hotel on taxpayer-funded trip. That's what his biographer said. Oh, my Lord. This is getting out of hand much, much faster than you can imagine. But all the thing I have to say about this, if you have someone, a prominent figure like that, being accused of a crime, wouldn't the DOJ go in there and actually try to either mitigate this through, obviously, evidence and research? Say, look, nothing here happened. Let's absolve this person of any wrongdoing. Instead, what are they doing? They're not doing anything. Has anyone from the Epstein client list, so-called, been arrested? Has any of the women who have come forward, there was some 1,000, now there's only about 200. Has anyone gone to these women and said, when were you at this location? Who did you see there? And again, why are they not looking at some of these video footage that has been in all these locations, from his Manhattan pad, his mansion that he lived in, to the islands he lived on, he had places all over. France, I mean, all over the place. You tell me there's nobody that can put anybody in these locations? Come on. I mean, this is just ridiculous at this point. And what gives it away? You have JP Chase, Morgan Bank, doling out, I think, $800 million to these victims. You have Deutsche Bank doling out, I think, $200 million, if I'm not mistaken. Why would these banks give out money? And by the way, there was money that he had to pay as well, Prince Andrew, in court for these charges. Why would he give money if he's not guilty of anything? That's the big question. So, I mean, I don't know, folks. If major banks, again, that have probably been involved in this money laundering for this illegal sex ring of minors that had been going on, of various prominent people, is paying out that much money, and you're telling me nothing's there at all? It was just all Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell? I think, you need your head examined. I would have to assume. But something's rotting in Denmark here, and we got to get to the bottom of this. And for some reason, our DOJ should be looking into this, building a case of all these women that are remaining, taking testimony and actually investigating what's going on here and holding these people accountable. And we are not seeing that. So a loss of justice, absolutely. Big loss for the Trump administration on this. All right, final article I'll go on to before we end today's show. In Just the News, it says here, drug makers recall blood pressure medication for having potential cancer-causing chemicals. What the FDA is now saying. Wonderful, FDA. Wonderful job you do. So that the two U.S. drug makers are now recalling more than 500,000 bottles of blood pressure medication. I think it says Prezazine hydrochloride, for possibly containing a cancer-causing chemical, according to the FDA. Yes. It says Teva Pharmaceuticals USA and Amerisource Health Services issued voluntary nationwide recalls earlier this month of more than 580,000 bottles of the blood pressure medication, according to the FDA. This was via the Associated Press. And the so-called chemical inside this, prescribed by doctors to help lower blood pressure and sometimes to help people with post-traumatic stress disorder who have nightmares and other sleep disturbances. The FDA is now saying that it is given this effective, this class 2 risk classification last week because some of the recalled medication may have nitrosamine impurities inside these. By the way, nitrosamines can cause cancer, of course. Not a good thing. These impurities can form during the manufacture or storage of the drug. Yeah, nitrosamines are not good. That's when you see this too with, for example, if you're using nitrates in like cured meats, and you add something in it like aspartame. So let's say you're drinking a diet soda and eating lots of ham sandwiches, for example. It can create these nitrosamines in your stomach and, of course, lead to causing cancer. So I think you want to avoid using these drugs, folks. There's so many other natural things you can do for your blood pressure. I used to take a supplement called, I didn't have high blood pressure, but I just took it because it's good for you. But in putting something in your body like L-arginine, L-citrulline, vitamin C, vitamin E for sure for the heart, you want to make sure you're taking a good source of magnesium glycinate, which is, again, great for the heart as well. CoQ10 enzymes, very good, also for the heart. And also make sure you're drinking at least half your body weight in fluid ounces per day. Also try to get a little bit of exercise, move your feet around, get your circulation moving. If you're living a sedentary lifestyle, you're opening yourself up for a lot of these health problems. And again, if you're overweight, you should be moving around. That's just what it comes down to. So many natural things you can do for your blood pressure. You don't need to be on these drugs. You don't need to be on these blood thinners or any of these other things. You can simply just do it on your own by changing your diet, staying away from things like these seed oils, which cause massive inflammation in the body as well. You want to stay away from those. So don't go right to the medication. Try to do natural things first. And then afterwards, if that's not working, then you can go into looking for the pharmaceutical aspect of it. That's just my take on it. Folks, hope you enjoyed this show today. We're closing out the month of October. It's been great having each and every one of you here with me, and I'll be here on Monday again on the next Marco Dre Show. Until then, have a blessed rest of your day. Enjoy your Halloween, and don't do anything I wouldn't do. I'll see you on Monday. God bless.